Postgraduate Education. She's doing this role for the past 2 years, so she's here to answer any questions you guys have about her role or about campaigning for the role or literally anything to do with being VP Postgrad. So if you guys have any questions, you write them in the chat. We'll make sure Ismahan can answer them. So that's the best way to do it. So as you go along, anything you think of you want to ask, just pop it in the chat and we can talk about it. So yeah, to kick us off, Ismahan, do you want to introduce yourself and why don't you tell everyone why you decided to run to be VP Postgrad in the first place?
No problem. So I'm Ismahan. I'm the Vice President for Postgraduate Education. For my undergraduate, I studied Human Resource Management at the Marylebone campus. I think the reason why I studied Human Resource Management is generally because I decided to take a huge risk with my degree. And I think it was because I was interested in doing business, but I think it being so general, I wanted to be a lot more specific. And I didn't like anything else, but like something about human resources kind of struck me, and it's going to kind of add up to the story later on. And I wasn't necessarily involved with any societies or sports during my first and second year. And I think third year is when I kind of decided that I wanted to go out of the box and get to know people outside of my course. And one of the opportunities I had in first getting involved with the student union is taking a job there. So I was a student staff that was working at the receptionist at Marylebone campus. And that kind of gave me so many opportunities on getting to know so many undergraduates and postgraduates. And it was just like, I don't know, it was just a really nice feeling to know that there's other people from like different cultures and everything, and like all coming together to kind of talk to me about any issues they had, or like sometimes they would even spend lunch and just like chill with me and everything. And I really liked that atmosphere. And I think at that time also I was kind of working, I kind of could oversee what the previous undergraduate officer was doing, who was Jamila, who was at that office at that moment in time. So I kind of got to overshadow her a little bit to see the kind of work that she undergoes. And whenever I would have like a complaint that a student would come and give me, I would always pass down to her. And I really liked how she was going about the issues that were coming up, and then her feeding back to me the how it was resolved, and I would pass it back to the students. And then one thing I was kind of really observant of is the fact that postgraduates didn't really have that like representative that they needed. And a lot of the time when they would come to us, there would be a lack of knowledge within it. And so that's when I decided, when the elections came up and postgraduate officer was like available, I was like, you know what, I want to take this as a challenge for myself as a personal development, but also to be able to do things for these postgraduates. And yeah, so I kind of took it upon myself, even though I never did my master's or my PhD in anything. I was like, you know what, let me go to student union. Can I still do this even though I didn't do my master's? And they were like, yeah, you can still do it. And I was just like, okay, that's really nice, like to hear. So I kind of took it upon myself to kind of challenge myself and risk it and just be like, you know what, let me do something that I may not have the knowledge on, but I'll get supported throughout it. And yeah, so here I am 2 years afterwards, still doing the same job.
I love that. I love hearing about why you decided to run. So we've got a question in the chat about kind of your tasks and your goals in this role. So do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what you aim to do in the 2 years that you ran and kind of what you do to achieve those?
I guess one of the main priorities and like the goal that I always try to be consistent with is the fact that I knew I never did my master's. So every time I would do something, every time I would walk into a meeting, I would always make sure to kind of get the views of the postgraduates and not to do anything because I think it's right, but genuinely because this is what postgraduates needed. So, so my first year, because we had like a restructure at the student union, and a lot of the committee meetings that I went to never, like they would always like include the undergraduate, or the discussion mostly would be about undergraduates. So I kind of wanted to lay down that foundation to always include postgraduates and PhDs within those conversations and tell them, even though like there may be a lot more smaller number than undergraduate, they should still get that same student experience as undergraduates or foundation students. So that was kind of like my goal during the first year. And then when I decided to rerun, the reason I decided to rerun for my second term was because I now had laid down that foundation. I felt like my work was unfinished because I didn't want somebody else, like, of course, I wanted somebody, or me, or whoever I was running against, to be able to use that foundation and build onto it. So for that reason, I would be a lot more specific in my manifesto and try to get into more details about like core issues that could be solved. And then that's what I'm trying to do now, and next 5 months, hopefully.
That's really great. So someone else was asked, are you running for next year for the role? So do you want to explain a little bit about the 2-year term?
I will try to explain it, but you can jump in if I miss something out. So I think the job is only for 2 academic years. So that's the limit for any sabbatical officer. And then this gives an opportunity for new students, or like the new generation, to kind of come in with new ideas and new improvements and feedbacks that they want to kind of bring into the student union and the university in general. But
yeah, so it's the same for every single sabbatical role. You can only do the role for 2 years. So Ismahan's not allowed to run again. She's done it 2 years, so now it's time for someone new. Okay, so someone's asked, how long should the manifesto be? Good question.
So I think the manifesto generally it could literally be like 3 bullet points or 4 bullet points. It doesn't have to be as detailed as like you think they need to be, as long as you can make it as simple for you to understand and for the whole students to be able to understand. That's all that matters. And somebody just wrote manifesto is up to 3,003. Yeah, it's up to 300 words. It doesn't have to be 300 words exactly. So don't stress yourself out and just try to make it as simple as possible. And then hopefully if you get the role, the support available to see how you can like break it down and how you can work on different things.
I think there's another question just on the manifesto saying, do we include our ideas?
You can include any idea that you guys have. Literally, there's nothing that's impossible.
So what's a good question about your kind of daily tasks? Like, how do you kind of define your daily tasks? I guess what do you do on the day-to-day? Hard to summarize, isn't it?
Yeah, okay, it varies a lot. So me and the undergraduate education officer at the moment, Fatima, go to numerous meetings, committee meetings, whether that's student experience, whether that's teaching, whether that's like sub committees of like different meetings. So we would have to go to those. That usually happens like every 3 months or every 2 months that we would attend it. And also we would go through our emails on a daily basis and try to answer as many emails as we can. Sometimes we have like meetings, like monthly meetings with like the vice chancellor or the deputy vice chancellor, and that way we would have like a me and Fatima currently have a group chat with like the school reps and the course reps, where we would try to get their feedback on any concerns or any feedback that they have, and we try to always bring it back. And then yeah, and sometimes I would have meetings with the SU staff members as well and see like how our progress on our manifesto points as well, that actually happens as well. I think that explained it.
Great. I think we've caught up on the questions in the chat for now. Keep asking them, guys, but while we wait for any other questions to come in, perhaps it'd be a good idea for you to talk a little bit about campaigning. I mean, obviously campaigning is going to be a bit different this year for it to be online, but do you have any kind of sort of student route? I don't remember getting a meeting with the vice president first. I mean, do you want to pass that over?
So I'm sure David would probably have explained it to you guys, but a lot of the time there's a system in place for school reps and like course reps to be able to feedback on things. So majority of the times, most of the feedback would come to us from David. So that's how we would reach those feedback. Sometimes we would email specific school reps, but most of the time when me and you would be in contact is that if you feel like the solution wasn't resolved or you didn't get that feedback or like the solution that you wanted, and that's when we would work with other university staffs and then kind of feedback it back to you.
Just talking and I was muted. Classic. Yeah, that's great. Someone's asked, can you be EWU and course reps? I think, is that a full-time officer role and a course rep? I think there might be, what do you mean?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just saying if you could do both.
Yeah, do you want to answer that, Ismahan?
Okay, so as in like the sabbatical role and the
yeah.
course rep. So the sabbatical role is a full-time role. So you would be working with the course reps, and course reps are usually course representative from a specific course. So you'll be working with them on any feedback and concerns anyways, and you would be there. So it wouldn't necessarily be both, but you guys would be working together.
Sorry, I think, can I just clarify really quick? No, my question was, if I wanted to be the course representative of my specific major, could I do that and also hold office in student union? Or
So as in currently you would be a course rep and you would want to be a sabbatical officer?
yeah,
Yes.
that's okay. Okay.
Yeah, definitely you can do that.
Yeah, I think the confusion might have come because obviously being a sabbatical officer is a full-time role, so you either do it at the end of your degree or you take a year out in the middle. So you couldn't be doing them both at the same time. If you can be a course rep and then go on to become a sabbatical.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I understand.
Yeah, loads of people come rolling for roles from being course reps and stuff, so it's a great foundation to have. Okay, so someone's asked again, is it compulsory to do it for 2 years?
No, so your first, like now, if you were to nominate yourself, you would be doing it for 1 academic year if you win it, and in order for you to do it for a second time round, you would have to run in the elections again. So I ran and I did a campaign for a second year to be doing this for another year.
Also another question is, how will this role help for your future career? I think that's a great question.
Okay, I like that question because I'm all about the personal development. So when I kind of did my degree, I loved it and it was really useful, but I think there was something missing in terms of it making it more practical. So when I, became a sabbatical officer, there was like so much support and so much like personal development that you can kind of take it upon yourself to kind of get involved in. Even if it's not within your remit, you could still get involved and tell yourself, this is what I want to do. So for example, during my first academic year, I took part in, because we have a trustee board, which is the highest board in the student union. Correct me, I'm doing a bad job at explaining it, but there's like a subcommittee which is divided in HR and finance, and there was like a huge opportunity for a sabbatical officer to be able to chair that meeting and to lead that meeting. So I decided to be the chair of the HR committee. So I was able to actually put the things that I've learned into practice, and it was literally an amazing opportunity because that is literally what I had wanted. And also there's like loads of CPD available if you were interested. If I had been interested in doing my postgraduate education, the student union would have basically helped me with it. And then during this year, I kind of took it upon myself, even though like one of my weaknesses was finance and accounting, but I was just like, you know what, this year I'm going to take it as like a personal development, and I decided to become like the chair of the finance and accounting. So hopefully I'll take all those skills away with me on my next job. But yeah, I hope that answers it.
So I've got a question saying, do you consider yourself having a bigger chance in taking the role compared to other electors since you were there for a previous year? I think obviously you're not running again this year, but last year when you ran for a second time, do you kind of think you had a bigger chance of it because you'd had the year already? Or maybe the person's asking is if they're running against someone who's done the job before, would they?
I don't think it's necessarily about having done the job already, because there could be, I'm pretty much an introvert, so I wouldn't necessarily talk to as many people as I would want to, because I like to keep to myself a lot. But like, I don't know how to describe it. There could be somebody else that let me start again. There would be somebody else that would be a lot more engaged with the student union, such as they might be involved in a lot more sports and societies. So the election is more about, it's not about being popular, it's not about having your face like everywhere. It's more about people generally looking at your manifesto and thinking, this is the kind of things that the university needs to improve on, and people would vote for you in that kind of sense. And one thing that I always try to do is, on my first year, I didn't have any contested. I didn't have anybody that would that wanted the role at that time. But I think second year is when there was more contestants that came up, and we would speak to each other, and we would just literally tell each other, listen, if you win, make sure I would want you to work on this, and then they would tell me the same thing. So it wasn't like a competition between us. It was generally about us working together, and if whoever wins in this situation, make sure like we're helping the postgraduates at the end of the day. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. So there's no advantage anyway.
Yeah, I think often people really bond actually through running together.
Yeah.
It's actually really nice. Okay, I think we're got another question. So I think it's about engagement and commitment towards students and teamwork, dreamwork. Indeed. Okay. So we've asked, what issues did you work on when writing the manifesto? So I think that's what you focus on.
So I have a really bad memory in terms of my first year, but I'll be able to talk about my second year because that's what I'm doing now. But the kind of things that I worked on my manifestos this year was the assessment and feedback policy. One thing that I've noticed from the previous year before is that the assessment and feedback policy was last reviewed in 2017, and knowing that like COVID happened and there was a difficult circumstances with everybody, I think it was really important that we reviewed it so that it was more suitable for the students now, and they were able to adapt, and the university was able to give that support to students, whether that was face-to-face or whether that was online. Also, I was working with the library team. One of the things that I've noticed with postgraduate students is that because they have a extra semester, which is the semester 3, I was working with and I'm still working currently with the library team to ensure that that semester 3, the experience that you had in semester 1 and 2 also matched that. And to give a backstory, is the opening hours of the library is a lot more reduced to 10 to 5 during the 3rd semester, and that's when it would be a lot more critical for PhD students and postgraduate students who might need to access that resources or space after 5 p.m, whether that's, you know, them being a carer, or whether that's them having a part-time or full-time job. They should still deserve the same experience and space and resources as undergraduate students. What else am I working on? My head is going blank, and that's not good because I looked at my manifesto today. What else am I working on? Also working on the bunching policy. So that's ensuring that there's gaps between your assignments and your courseworks. So that policy is currently already in place, but I think ensuring that there's like a whole bigger system, because schools do it in their own way to ensure that bunching doesn't happen. But sometimes there's still that clash there. In order for everybody to work together, is creating like a clear framework to help actually understand each assignment and how this doesn't clash with any other assignments. So I'm currently working with the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Education and different head of schools with it at the moment, but I'll leave it there because I can keep going on and on.
Okay, so I've got a question, is are undergrad students eligible to vote for your role?
Yes, any student who is a member is allowed to vote for any role.
Nice quick one. Okay, don't think there's anything I've missed in the chat. I think we're kind of up to date. So yeah, while we wait for any more questions to come through, I think, yeah, as I was saying before, it might be a good idea to talk about campaigning a little bit. Obviously different, but do you have any kind of tips for online campaigning or anything you did online that might be helpful?
That's a really good one. I'm not very engaged online, so for somebody that's not very engaged, I would definitely recommend utilizing social media as much as you can, whether that's Instagram, whether that's Facebook, and try to create a brand for yourself, or like a picture of yourself and your manifestos, so that you're able to pass it down to societies or course reps or school reps down to them easily. Pop anybody that you know from Westminster a message and ask them, could you please look at my manifesto and see like if this is the kind of things that you would want me to work on, and like please vote for me. I'm saying the same thing as Lababa did because that was a really great answer. So yeah, I would encourage, try to reach out to anybody that you know from Westminster and pass down your campaign, and I hope that helps. Yeah,
I think obviously, you know, campaigns can be this year because we're not having that same face-to-face, but I think, you know, people will still do amazing jobs. Okay. All students in US University have the right to vote. Okay, yeah. So do you want to explain that? So explain that all students who attend Westminster University have the right to vote because they are all members of UWU.
Yeah, so once you enroll at Westminster, you would automatically become a member of the student union, so you can vote. So there's no difference between student union and Westminster students here. It's the same thing.
Trying to mute myself. Okay, got another question. So are non-UK applicants allowed, and how does that work with visas? Yeah, if you need any help with the visas part, I can try and jump in, but you take it away, Ismahan.
Clarification: allowed as in to vote, or allowed as in to run as a sabbatical role? I'm gonna basically both.
Assuming allowed to run.
Yes, both. Regardless what I just said, both answers to them are yes, you are, and you'll get a lot of support with that.
Yeah, so if you need your visa sponsoring and stuff, we can sort that out and everything. So it doesn't matter if you're an international student. Our current president is an international student. You can run regardless, it's fine. And that's one of the things this year as well, is that with voting, we've left it, we're not doing a cut-off at the end of the day, so people can vote all throughout the hours of the day, because we understand that people might be abroad, they might be at home. So we've left it open all throughout the day for you guys. Okay, is there another kind of question for me? If there's no other ones. Is there anything that you wish you knew before you ran for the role that you feel like is a pearl of wisdom to pass along?
One thing I wish I knew, because I never did my master's, I kind of wasn't very educated on how it worked. As much as it may sound silly, I never knew that there was a difference between postgraduates and PhD, and that they are a community within itself. And that's one thing I kind of had to sit down, and I was very lucky to have our academic coordinator, David, who had recently finished his PhD, sit down with me and explain to me there's there's postgraduate taught who are like actually on campus, and then there's their PhD that you don't see a lot of, like you don't see often. And I had to create relationships from like different departments, and I wish I kind of had known that a lot more earlier, because I kind of received that just a few months after I started this job. And yeah, and also what other thing did I wish I had known? Nothing, just that I wish I was a lot more organized.
Okay, that's a good answer. Oh, someone's asked for your email.
Oh, and Hannah popped
Is that it? Yeah, Hannah's popped out in the chat for you all, so you can email her. If you we'll give you contact information at the end for any kind of general election questions as well. But I'm sure Ismahan's happy to chat to you all about her specific role.
Definitely.
Do you kind of we're just having a look through the questions we've already got. A lot of these have been answered already. That's this one. What's been your favourite part of this role? Obviously, you've had 2 years doing this now. It might be hard to pick one moment, but
honestly, as much as I wish that, you know, this difficult circumstances of COVID hadn't happened, last year would probably have been literally my favourite year. And the reason I say that is because one thing I've noticed when I became a sabbatical officer is how bad I really wished I had gotten involved in it, like sports and societies from the beginning. And as much as, you know, I may be in my full-time role, you can still get involved with sports and societies. And that's what we did. Me and the previous team would always go to events, like other students would like lead on, and would like pop in and just do the same thing as students would do. And that meant also the events that the student union would organize as well, such as karaoke night. So I really liked it. And as much as like our job on the daytime would be going through our emails or going to meetings and it feeling so corporate, during the evening it would be really fun and it would be really outgoing, and everybody was just like, the atmosphere was just so nice, knowing that like you're so close with the students and then you're also so close with like university staff. It was just a really nice atmosphere, and hopefully you guys will get to experience that soon when this is all over, I pray. But yeah, that was probably my favorite time. And yeah.
okay, I'll do another question from me, and if you guys have any other questions, please do pop them in. Oh, there's another one. Yay. Reading the question. What could be the elements preferred or vital to the Health Manifesto and answers to the questions put up in the questionnaire? Okay, so I think the question's kind of saying, is there any kind of really important things to include in your manifesto, any tips for a good manifesto, and the questions that we could ask them as well?
I hope I answered this question right, but I think I would always recommend try to keep it as simple as possible, and also try to speak to like your classmates about like any issues that they're going through, or any feedback that you genuinely think is that you think you might want to take it up and put it on your manifesto to work on for the academic year. So I would always say keep it as simple as possible. It doesn't have to be as complicated as you think. You will receive loads of like support from it once you if you do win, but try to just keep it as simple and like, and don't try to put too much work upon yourself. Don't try and like fill up those 300 words. It's not necessarily, don't put too much pressure on yourself. And it could literally be as simple as what I did is one of my manifestos is like implementing Wellbeing Wednesday for postgraduate students. That was just one of my manifestos, and I tried to keep it as simple because I've noticed that once you write so much, you can actually overload yourself and you can burn yourself out and think to yourself, I can't achieve it, and you might feel down about it. And that's what I would always say, keep it as short as possible.
Yeah, and I think if anyone has any kind of questions about specifically manifesto writing, need help, you might have seen Hannah popping up in the chat writing helpful things. Hannah's one of our staff members and she kind of leads on elections and stuff, so I'll give you guys her contact email at the end, and she can help you out with any kind of advice or anything you might need about manifestos and stuff. So we're all kind of all here to answer any questions and stuff, so don't be afraid to get in touch and ask anything. I think another kind of good question I think to answer is, does your manifesto change, or can you change your manifesto and your focus after you get elected?
Yes, you can change it, and a lot of the time when somebody writes down their manifestos, what can happen is if you do win, we go through them, and the university or like the SU would kind of tell you, this has already been done, is there anything else that you want to work on? So you can change at any moment in time. There was in my first year I had discontinued one of my manifesto's points because it wasn't a priority at that moment in time, and there were like other things that I wanted to work on. So don't feel like because you work this done and you've told the students about it, you have to meet them. But sometimes you can change them, and you can tell student council about it if you do attend it, and you can tell them, I stopped this manifesto, or I'm not currently working on this manifesto, but I'll be working on this instead. So don't feel like you have to meet it. You can always change it at any moment in time during the academic year, whether that's at the beginning, in the middle, or the end. So
and sometimes it's a global pandemic and that just ruins all your plans. Yeah, so I think, yeah, you get the chance to be flexible, which is really good and very important. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, yeah, Hannah's just put in the chat saying, kind of covering lots of the advice on manifestos at the candidates meeting on the 4th of February. So if you do decide to put yourself forward, you'll be getting lots of support from Hannah and the rest of the team in this. Yeah, if there's nothing else, we can start to wrap up. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming. I hope that was helpful. Hope you learned something. If you have any more questions, you know, specifically about Ismahan, of course, you can email her. But if you have questions about elections or about running or anything at all to do with the process, you can email su-elections@westminster.ac.uk. Emails in the chat. And if you want to put yourself forward, except for manifesto, what else should we include? So when you nominate yourself, I think that's the main thing. I don't know if Ismahan wants to say something.
I think Hannah might have a better answer than
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what is exactly on the form when you go to nominate yourself.
Yep. So on the form, all you need to do is put in your name and what name you'd like to go by. So for example, if your formal name's Bethany, but you'd like to go by Beth, then you can put in Beth there. And there is a box which says manifesto, but you don't need to put anything in there immediately. You can just put like some gobbledygook because you're going to have the opportunity to email me directly what you actually want your manifesto after we've gone through that advice and guidance at the candidates meeting. So in order to apply, all you need to do is just put in your name, which one you want to apply for, and just a couple of words or a couple of spaces in that box, and then you have the opportunity to email me a full manifesto at a later time. So then in addition to that, you can also submit a shortened down version of your manifesto. So that's a 100-word version of your manifesto. You can submit a short video which we can use in our social media channels, and some lovely photos of your smiling face so that people can get to know you and your wonderful face across campus on our social media channels.
Thanks for that, Hannah. We've had some last minute questions. What if one fails to make it to the payroll? Can one still collaborate early? Okay, so yeah, if you don't win and you don't get elected to the payroll, can you still voluntarily help out and collaborate on things?
Yeah, you can definitely still voice your feedback and your concerns with us, with the sabbatical officers, or even the liberation officers or the campus liaison. Like, we're still here to support you regardless whether you get it or you don't get it. And you could also be a course rep or a school rep, so you'll be working with your whole class or the whole school to make sure that all the feedback that you give are resolved. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, like we definitely, like, if you don't win your election, definitely you should still stay engaged with us. Like, we don't want you then to just like disappear and never voice your opinion again. Definitely still engage in any way you can. Another question saying with postgrads, the third semester can make campaign time awkward. So what term should postgrads run? Okay, do you want to explain about how the kind of elections process works, how it's all done together?
I kind of slightly get that question, but I think I might mislead it. So would Hannah know?
So I think the question is basically saying about so the election, all the roles run at the same time. So all the election happens all together during the next few weeks to months. I think voting opens at the end of Feb, beginning of March. Correct me if I'm wrong, Hannah. So
beginning of March. Yeah, so we only run one election season a year. I'd be happy to have a conversation either via email or via a Zoom call if that's helpful, Jamie, to chat about the exact time of your course and how we might be able to support you in running, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I don't want to take up too much time. I'm just
completely. I completely get it. It's a bit of a difficult one because we only run the elections once a year, but we can talk about when it would start and kind of like the impact it might have on your studies. If you've got my email, then it'd be handy if you could drop me a message and we can work out a time to have that call, if that's okay.
Yeah, is that just the SU elections one?
Just email me on there. Just
awesome.
If I get sick, it means my manager can take a look at that and still support you. I'm not planning on getting sick, but that's why I'm sending you there. My personal email.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Someone got assessment on the 4th of March. Okay, so I think there is a system of you can use mitigating circumstances potentially for voting week. Don't know if Ismahan knows more about that, but
I think that's you're allowed to put in your circumstances, and so my advice would be make sure that you find time management and you organize yourself in a way where you're still able to give your full ability on your assessments and at the same time work on your campaign, but don't overwork yourself as well.
Yeah, so I think it's just for voting, the voting week period time that you can. I think that is in that time, as far as I remember the dates off the top of my head. Yeah, you can use mitigating circumstances for that week, because obviously trying to do your assignment and trying to campaign at the same time is going to be very intense. Cool. Is there anything else anyone else wants to know? You're very welcome. So yeah, if you want to nominate yourself, you can just do it on the website. So it's just uwsu.com/elections. It's also a way to find loads more information as well. If there's anything else you want to read up on. And yeah, if you're ever in doubt, you can always just email SU-elections and there'll be someone, normally Hannah's lovely smiling face, there'll be someone to reply to you and help you out. Ooh, so thanks for coming, everyone. I hope you all found that helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a nice evening.